Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Sky U Pod, your college huddle Gopher football podcast. Joining us today, we got Ed from Bruin Source, our UCLA football podcast at the College Huddle. Uh, Zed, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you doing?
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. Doing well, better than our football team is doing, but we'll get into that.
Yeah. Well, Zed, I think with the new coach, kind of a transition into the Big Ten, growing pains, I guess, can be expected. I always think that UCLA does have the athletes. Maybe it just takes time to put it all together. But I do have a first question for you, just in general here, Zed. UCLA is in the Big Ten now. How do you feel about that?
It's exciting. It's been exciting playing new teams, seeing new stadiums and new environments. It would be a lot more exciting if our team was better positioned to be competitive. Obviously, that is not the case right now, and I think we're even worse than a lot of us thought we were going to be. So that kind of sucks. But yeah, I mean, the Big Ten's been fun so far. Um, I am at the point with football where I'm looking forward to basketball season, but we can talk about basketball later. But yeah, it's been fun. It's been interesting. I've been enjoying the newness of it all.
Nice.
Zed, I gotta ask you a question here
Yeah.
because there was some off-season smoke of PJ and UCLA maybe talking. I just want, Gopher fans are split on that if it was PJ that reached out or whatever. I think half the fans are over it. They're tired of hearing about PJ potentially looking at other stuff anyway. I just want your opinion. What would your thoughts have been if that would have transpired? And secondly, just what are your thoughts about Foster, right? About how he's done and your excitement or worries about him currently as the coach.
Yeah. So, I mean, there was smoke around PJ. I think we were hearing it from people over here as well. I don't know how advanced any of that ever got. There was clearly some sort of contact, but unsure
Right.
how far it was. I mean, look, PJ Fleck's a solid coach. He's been, you know, leading Minnesota to solid seasons year after year after year. And uh, after watching him take down USC last week, and thank you for that, by the way, um, the man was made for Hollywood. Like he was enjoying that moment. So I think he would have done solidly here. I don't think he would have been a bad coach by any means, but thinking about Foster versus PJ, I mean, it's clear you would probably want somebody like PJ. Like he's just a much more experienced coach.
Sure.
And I think that's been the biggest issue with Coach Foster is he obviously bleeds blue and gold. Like he is a Bruin through and through. Obviously had a legendary career here, but from a coaching perspective, I think he's still growing into that. I think he's still learning. I think the preparation isn't always there. And the decision making isn't always there. I think that's what's kind of worrisome. And I look at this roster and the talent that we have there, and I it's not great, but it's not as bad as what our results look like. And I can only point to the coaching and the leadership for that.
If it makes you feel better, we've had plenty of issues with PJ and game time management skills. Although last game he did a tremendous job, so I don't want
Yeah,
to bag on him too hard. But yeah.
fair.
Yeah, no, UCLA's definitely had a pretty tough schedule to begin the season here. I mean, we went to Hawaii, which say what you will about that team, but going to the island is always tough in and of itself. And then you've had four straight ranked opponents, the last two both in the top five. I guess, in your opinion, do you think, I guess, does it make it seem like UCLA's record, maybe they're not as bad as they appear to be? Or do you think this schedule has kind of taken something out of this team and it's going to be a tough road ahead?
We've talked a lot about this on our show, actually, is like this schedule, and especially the last several games going into Minnesota, was going to be the key to the season of like, does Foster lose the team or not? Because if you get pummeled game after game after game, the confidence, the like buy in from most of these players is going to go out the window. And I think based on what I've seen and read and heard, doesn't seem like that's happened. They're still playing hard, so that's good. Um, I just think there's some schematic issues here that are beyond, losing confidence. It's just there's a lot of systemic things that are broken on the offense specifically that I think we need to figure out. And I don't know if we will this season or not.
Yeah, that, you made a good point about the offense there, and I kind of wanted to address some of the personnel here. Is that we saw that Ethan Garbers kind of went down during that Oregon game with like that leg injury, maybe it was an ankle. And then last week, the redshirt sophomore Justin Martin was starting. Do you think that UCLA, and I know that Garbers has kind of been up and down, maybe in your opinion, do you think that they should maybe kind of see what Justin Martin has in the tank, or is sticking with Garbers probably the plan at quarterback?
It sounds like, at least to the media, Foster has been saying Garbers is the guy. Based on what I saw, though, I don't know if that's the right decision. I think the offense is, there's a lot of scheme issues, but when Martin was in there, it actually operated at a much higher level. And I don't know if that was Eric Bieniemy just dumbing it down because we had the backup in there or what the result was, but like Martin ran that offense pretty well. He has a pretty good arm. He has some athleticism, and he just had a lot more poise than Ethan Garbers has displayed this season, which is surprising. Garbers has played a lot of football. He's been here for a while. And so when you see that and you see the new guy come in and actually look better, and you're trying to put some life into an offense, I think you have to make the move. But I don't know. I don't know if they're going to actually do it. I would love for them to throw Martin out there for another game, see how he fares against Minnesota and go from there. But it kind of depends on Garber's health. I think if Garber's is fully healthy, they'll probably trot him back out there by the sounds of it. But I personally don't necessarily agree with that move.
I've seen from the few UCLA fans that I follow, I feel like the offensive line has been a lot of talking point for you guys. Do you feel that you guys have the athletes at receiver and running backs to put together a solid offense, and it is just the O-line hindering you guys, or maybe elaborate on what the offensive line's been doing?
Yeah, O-line has not been good. O-line has been pretty bad. And a lot of this stems back to our previous coach. I will refrain from talking too much about it, but basically recruiting was not going well because there was zero effort being put into it. So we were left scrambling. I think Coach Foster did a pretty good job of cobbling together some transfers in the short time he had when he took the job. But yeah, the O-line is just not good. I think you put any quarterback behind that, any running back behind there, they're getting pummeled. And last game against Penn State, it showed up a little bit. It looked like it was gelling, but still not good by any means. It's not even average. And so that's really has been our biggest problem on offense, and we haven't been able to scheme around it. There's been nothing really done to try to mask that. I do think we have athletes at the skill positions. We have some good running backs, solid running backs. I think TJ Harden got hurt last game, but Jalen Berger is there. We have a couple other guys that can carry the ball well enough. And receiver has been a strength. J. Michael Sturdivant is, a solid receiver. Logan Loya last game showed up against Penn State, has always been very good from the slot position. Rico Flores, the transfer from Notre Dame, has been fantastic when given the opportunity and when we get him the ball. So we have guys there. It's just we don't scheme well enough to get those guys the ball.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of, I guess, going to the defensive side of the ball, last year it seemed like defense was definitely the strength of UCLA, and quite a few guys went to the NFL. Does it feel like you've been able to replace some of those guys, or maybe there's some young recruits coming up potentially, or does it feel like there's been a huge drop-off and that's going to be a hurdle to get over going forward?
I mean, it's definitely been a huge drop off. You lose, Laiatu Latu and the Murphy twins to the NFL amongst several other guys. We lose our defensive coordinator. I won't say where. we lose a couple of transfers that follow him as well. And yeah, you're looking at a fairly depleted defense, but I do think that Kaika Malloy, the new defensive coordinator, has done some good things to at least make the defense respectable. The biggest problem for the defense has been they're just on the field too long. I mean, you can't expect them to hold opponents to like under 10 points a game when we're not scoring anything. So it's that's been the biggest issue with them. I think we're, from a talent perspective, we're doing some nice things. We have some good guys. Kane Medrano at the linebacker spot's been very good. Ola Dejo from the linebacker spot. Kalen Moore playing corner, transferred in from Cal, has been pretty good. So we have some guys there. It's not top end talent by any means, and we're not running a top 10, top 15 off defense like we were last season, but it's been serviceable. And I think if we can keep them off the field, like they'll be good enough.
Your run defense has been pretty stout. It appears anyway from watching from afar. I haven't been watching super close. Feel free to disagree with that if you do. But what do you think? I guess in a general way, like what do you think of the matchup? I guess with what you've seen of Minnesota's offense and like trench wise, where do you lean on that? Because you guys have been pretty good at stopping the run, it appears, and Gophers haven't really been able to run the ball super well until last game against USC. So I guess just what are your thoughts on that matchup and what makes UCLA pretty good at against the run so far?
Yeah, I'm actually very curious about this matchup. So Jay Toya on the defensive line has been very good. He's probably our most surefire NFL talent right now on the team. He flirted with transferring to Texas for a while. Decided to stay by some miracle. I don't know why, but he did, which we were very lucky to keep him in Westwood. And yeah, he's been very good. I think from top to bottom, like your guys' O-line is pretty solid. So we'll see if we can get penetration on the O-line and get after the quarterback a little bit. And I think we will be able to probably limit the run to some degree. But as the game goes on, as if the offense can't actually stay on the field, those guys are going to get tired. And I do think you will find some success running the ball if we can't, run some offense.
Sure.
Yeah, one guy to point out specifically, I was just really curious about it personally. So your guys' leading tackler is Carson. Feel like that's a concern, or do you think he can kind of just run around guys?
He's been surprisingly very good. He's been cleaning up a lot of stuff. He hasn't been like our primary linebacker. He's been kind of a surprise, honestly. I think we were looking at guys like Kane Medrano and Oladeja to be those star kind of linebackers, but Schwessinger's really stepped up. I do think our linebacking core in general stacks up pretty nicely. They've been playing well. There's a lot of talent there. That's hasn't really been the issue. I think where our biggest weakness has been on defense is really our secondary. Like our secondary has not been very good. Aside from a couple of players, we have not been able to stop the passing game for most offenses, and we break down. So I think if you guys are going to find some success, like Max Bosmer is going to need to carve up that secondary, and I think it's very possible that he can.
Has it been deep shots that you guys have been giving up, or is it more just like you said, carved up like 15 yards here, 10 yards here, just methodically down the field?
There's been a lot of that. I think we've often like I'm thinking back to like the LSU game. Like we would get LSU in, 3rd and 8s, 3rd and 10s, and every single time there was someone always open on those like mid throws. And that's where we get killed. We haven't given up a ton of huge chunk plays that way. Like we definitely have, but that hasn't hurt us as much as like those intermediate throws are always for some reason open. And we haven't been able to defend it very well. And so we can't get off the field in those situations. And then it turns into a long drive. I mean, you look at a couple of those drives, for instance, LSU put together, and even Penn State, like they were long 90-yard drives that they just wore us down. The O lines have been better than our D line generally as the game goes on, and our secondary just can't hold up. So yeah, it's been brutal to watch sometimes.
Yeah. Well, you guys got great uniforms. That's got to help a little bit.
Yeah, that's true. That's what we're living on right now.
Yeah. Go ahead, Shreddy.
Yeah, I was just gonna. Do you both have any other questions, Max, Curdy?
Well, I just had I wanted to circle back to the offense and just kind of get his thoughts on if when you need a play, like who do you go to, or who's somebody that the Gopher fans should watch out for? I guess is someone that we might not know of on UCLA's offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think our steadiest guy so far when we need a play has probably been Logan Loya, and especially after last game. He's over the last couple of years, steady hands, good chain mover. Like he's not going to burn you, but he will get open somewhere downfield and make the catch and move the chains. Like he's been that reliable kind of guy for us. The other guys that have been pretty solid, Maliki Motavau, our tight end. He's been making some good plays. He showed some good play over this past season. So those two guys have been pretty solid. I'm curious to see who gets the start at quarterback. Honestly, I think if Martin is starting, there's a little bit more of a dynamic playmaker behind the.
Is he more athletic?
He's definitely more athletic. He's taller too, so he doesn't look as fast, but he covers a lot of ground when he's running. And he's just been making better decisions, honestly, than Garbers. And I don't know what's wrong with Ethan. He's a tough kid. Obviously, he's been getting clobbered behind this O line, so I don't know if that's just in his head. Like he's just not processing the game as quickly as you'd expect a senior to be doing. And maybe Martin just hasn't been hit enough. I don't know. He's playing well.
I'm really curious about that matchup just because the Gophers' defensive front is pretty banged up right now. We had a couple guys go down in the USC game. We were without one of our starting linebackers for that whole game. We lost a safety through that game as well. So very curious to see because the Gophers' defensive weakness really has been we've given up runs. Like people have been able to run the ball against us, and I know UCLA's strength hasn't necessarily been able to run the ball. So I'm just really curious to see who wins out in that duel this Saturday. But
and the other factor in that is TJ Harden, who's been starting, I think got banged up in the last game. I don't know if he's playing or not. I haven't seen what his injury status is so far, but if he can't go, Jalen Berger is probably going to be starting there, who transferred from Michigan State. So he knows you guys might be familiar with him. I don't know. He was there for a few years. And he's a much bigger, stronger kind of back. And so he's shown some spark in the running game. So maybe he's a guy that can inject some life there. I don't know, given a higher volume, but I'm curious to see what that looks like. I still think even with the banged up defense, our offense has just been so bad that you guys will probably still be able to stop us.
Well, I hope you're right. But we'll see. Let's see. Dave Lensky, pretty much a regular for us. Defensive line's our biggest weakness. I don't know if I agree with that. Maybe with the injury, our lack of depth, I think I'd agree. I still think as far as stopping the run, the linebackers have to step it up. I'm pretty harsh on our linebackers on our pod, but
yeah, me too.
We got the dub last game, so I'll be a little kinder on them. Let's get go ahead and give your keys to the game, and then feel free to give your score prediction as well.
I mean, the key is really going to be our offensive line. If we can protect our quarterback for any amount of time, then I think we can operate our offense a little bit better. We can run the ball a little bit better. That's been our key every game, and so far that key is broken. So it's not been successful. But we'll keep saying that. I really think we'll probably fall 24-10 Gophers. Just haven't seen enough out of this offense. I mean, we've scored one touchdown in the last like 10 quarters or something like that, one offensive touchdown. So it has not been good. So until I see something to change my mind, I can't predict us scoring more than like 10 points. So yeah, there it is. But I'm often wrong. So there's that silver lining for us.
We got a question for you here, if you don't mind, from a viewer.
Sure.
Do Bruins fans like having the Rose Bowl as their home stadium? Could an on-campus stadium ever happen for UCLA?
It's a great question.
Oh, that is a good question. So I will speak for myself. So I personally, I love the Rose Bowl. I mean, the history, the stadium, the setting for tailgating there is awesome. It is a great place to go watch a football game. That being said, it is incredibly impractical. So it is, if you don't know the geography of LA at all, it is about a 40-ish minute drive in traffic to get there from campus. Sometimes longer if there's really bad traffic, which there often is because it's LA. Yeah. So, for me, who's not a student anymore, it's not a big deal. But for the students and getting the students out there, it's a hassle. So they do bus the kids over, they get them over there, and the students generally do a pretty good job of showing up. But it's it's a lot harder to get them there, and the logistics are just tough. Yeah. The second part of your question, could an on-campus stadium ever happen for UCLA? I could probably have a whole hour-long podcast about this.
Yeah.
The short story is, like, I don't see it anytime soon. There's a lot of very wealthy people that live near campus that have been blocking that stadium due to concerns. I know there have been plans. They do try to propose it every few years. There have been plans to stand up like a 60,000 person stadium on campus, but it just never really
interesting
gains any ground. And part of that is like our admin has not been very strong on it either. So it's kind of a losing proposition so far, but I would love for it to happen someday. I think it would just be a better experience for everybody, but I don't see it happening anytime soon.
It's interesting, this situation, because about 15 years ago, the now Huntington Bank Stadium, was made because the Gophers used to go to the old Metrodome downtown where the Vikings used to play. They shared the stadium, so it wasn't a 40-minute drive like LA was. You're just going across the river pretty much. But, I do feel like having a stadium right on campus in the heart right there is just better for students to me. Yeah.
It makes a big difference as far as getting a more loyal following. It just, you see it with the Gophers.
Definitely.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just say the one thing in our favor maybe that could move the needle a little bit is with the Olympics coming here in a couple of years, there's been a lot of infrastructure investment in like public transport around campus. So with that, there might be some angle to like try to push for a stadium. We'll see. Like I don't have my hopes up, but there's been talks about that potentially being a catalyst for it. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting topic that I can go on for a long time.
Yeah. No, we appreciate it. Good question, Nick. We did not have that down.
Right on.
Yeah.
Well, any more questions, Max Curry? If not,
that's all we got.
Awesome. Well, Zed, we just want to thank you, man. Thanks for joining our show here. We really appreciate it, and have fun up here in Minnesota while you're here.
Yeah,
we'll stay in touch, let you know what you should check out. And
cool.
Yeah, man, we appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it, and we'll chat after the game on Saturday.
Sounds of course.
Man.
Sounds good, man.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Take it easy.
Have a good one.
Yeah. Bye. Take care. Well, that was Zed from the Bruin Source. And thanks again for him coming to our show. Go ahead and check out Zed and the the Bruin source on the collegehuddle.com. They're a great bunch and get all
And on
things
Twitter,
Bruin football.
they're at Bruin Source. It's pretty straightforward. So yeah, that was
Awesome.
nice of him to come on. I'm surprised, guys, hearing his thoughts. I just thought he's really down on the offensive line for UCLA, which I mean, I get it. I was the same way about the Gopher offensive line for 3 straight weeks for the most part. I just am really worried about the injuries to this Gopher squad after the big win and how that matchup is going to look.
Yeah.
I feel like they'll have some success running the ball just with the injuries that we have. And I just don't expect a big blowout game or an easy win at all. I know UCLA's down towards the bottom of the Big Ten right now, but 4 straight losses, but all to really good teams. So I don't know. What was your guys' main takeaway?
Yeah, it's Zed's great. I feel kind of bad because I could just feel it in his tone and his voice. He's really down on these Bruins, and I get it. Yeah, but I do think that they have some talent on their team, and they have had a really tremendously hard schedule this year. And I think he's right. He mentioned that. It can just take the life out of you, just losing these games, making it not competitive.
As a Gopher fan, I hope he's right. I hope their players feel that, but
yeah. But yeah, Kurt, like we were saying, we're going to talk about this later, but Devin Eastern left the game against USC. Kerry Brown did. Jalen Logan Redding left injured. Quinn Carroll went down out for a few snaps. We know that Mav is out. He missed last game altogether. Yes, he's dead, baby. Yeah, I think you're right, Dave.
Gopher fans have been there plenty of times. So, and we still might end up there depending if games don't go our way. So, should be interesting. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Shody.
No, that's okay. I just think with these injuries, it is worrisome, especially at the linebacker position. It seems like, and we mentioned it, Dave, you think that the defensive line is the weakest, and I think I agree with Kurt. I think the linebacker position's probably the weakest. With the injuries to the defensive line now, who knows? I guess we'll find out on Saturday, but I don't know. I feel like the linebackers are missing tackles. Mav is out, and he's been doing pretty good. That worries me, fellas. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, I wonder if Anthony Smith, we saw it at the end of last game, obviously, in passing situation, they've moved him inside. I wonder if now it's just a more often thing that he's playing inside just because. Yeah. But we'll see. I mean, maybe, I don't know what the coaches are playing, because they were playing Jeffries, right, at end last game by the end of it, too, at times, too. So that was interesting to see. I wonder, if everyone's banged up. I don't know. Like, I'm not putting pressure on the young guys or anything, but I wonder if you see, like, does a Jackson Howard get rotated in? I don't know. We don't know how close he is to actually seeing the field, but I mean, if Jeffries was playing end last game, you wonder if they're getting to that conversation of, okay, maybe the young guys got to take like a couple plays here and there. I don't know. That's just pure speculation. We'll see. Really hoping, for me, while we're talking about injuries to the defensive side of the ball, for me, it's all about, like, can Devin Eastern go out there and is he at at least 80%? Because that guy, without him at the inside, you're really struggling there. I mean, Jalen Logan Redding's already banged up. So, yeah, and if they can just tough it out and just battle through, because you got the bye week right after this, which would be huge to get to. If you can get to that bye week at, what would that put us at? 4-3? If you can get to that bye week at 4-3, it's just going to make you feel immensely better. So, coming off a big win could be a trap, but we'll see.
Yeah, like you guys touched on it. I mean, the interior defensive line needs to stay healthy, just long term, with the schedule ahead and everything else. But I guess the other personnel question, and I kind of thought about this just tonight. Is Jack Henderson hurt?
Dude, I just thought about that. I didn't rewatch the game, and I was just thinking about plays and watching in replay. I'm like, was Jack Henderson ever out on the field? Like, I never noticed him. And chat, if you notice, please chime in, like, because I really don't remember noticing him out there at all, and that's so unlike him because you usually notice him all the time. I was gonna rewatch it. Work came up and got in the way, but it didn't get to today. But like, yeah, like where was he? Because he's one of our better tackling guys that's up by the line of scrimmage, and yeah, no, that was a great. I'm glad you brought it up because I never noticed. Co's with us. Co never noticed him either, so I don't know. And
he wasn't on the injury report, right?
No,
I wonder if it was some sort of disciplinary. Maybe he got hurt during warm-ups. I don't know.
Well, and what they did do with the secondary though is drop him back a lot. Like how many times right before the snap were the corners just dropping? So, and there was a lot of times only 6 in the box. So maybe they just really thought it wasn't a Jack Henderson game.
Personnel thing,
which I think is weird. But
it seemed like McMillan was out there a lot more, and that's how I noticed it. I was like, McMillan had a really good game. Like he was everywhere. And then the more I thought about it and watched it back, I was like,
he did have a good game.
He's lined up where Jack Henderson's supposed to be. Like,
So yeah, I don't know, but I don't know. Coach, I guess says anybody have off? Oh, PFF. I don't. No. Probably should, but I don't want to pay for that as well. Feel free. We'll reach out to JR and confirm. I know he's got it, but yeah, that was interesting. And McMillan is more of the coverage deep, like down the field coverage variety body type. So maybe, but yeah, let me put it this way. I just think with what we've seen out of the linebackers that did play against USC, that Jack Henderson could be out there and doing just as good, even though he's a lighter body as what we see. And he's probably just as fast, if not faster than what's out there. So
I'd say he's probably one of, if not the best tacklers on the defensive side. I feel like he just makes tackles. There's his helmet's in every frame.
Yeah, and it's tough to compare because he hasn't lined up at linebacker. Right. So like Cody and those guys inside, Devin Williams, are taking on blocks the whole time and having guards pull at them. It's just been really effective. So I don't know. I'm not sure. And I listened to, I'm almost positive I listened to all of Ryan Burns' podcast as well. And I did not hear him even mention it. Maybe he wrote about it and I just missed it. But yeah, good call out. Interesting to see. Hopefully he's back. But yeah, let's just get into while we can still talk about the Gophers after, but let's specific to this game. What are your guys' couple keys to the game, score predictions? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that, it was interesting. I didn't know this nugget that Zed shared with us, that the Bruins haven't had an offensive touchdown in 10 quarters. That's not very good. With that, we know how stout our defense can be at times. They have shutout opponents. We have 2 shutouts this year. Against an anemic offense like this, it wouldn't be surprising that they held them to little points. But we are banged up like we kind of touched on, so it'll be interesting to see who steps up and if people are healthy. But in terms of the keys of the game, I think that the most important thing is offensively, Kurt, you said it, their rushing defense is great. They're 25th in the nation for rushing defense. We know that we haven't been great at running the football. Right, and they played great teams. So that'll be interesting to see if we can rush the ball. He's right about the secondary. Their secondary hasn't been doing good, but again, they played great teams. So I think the key to the game is offensive line, dig into those trenches and protect the quarterback. UCLA hasn't been doing well at getting to the quarterback. 6 sacks only and 8 quarterback hurries in 5 games. So I think that that'll be a great thing for Brosmer. So offensive line, just kind of do what you did last game. But I think it's going to be a big Brosmer game. I think that he's going to have a great game, get all your receivers involved. And then lastly, I guess just don't give up the big plays on defense. It doesn't seem like that'll happen, but with all these injuries and new personnel, mistakes can happen. So I think limiting big plays, trying to keep their offense off the field, get their defense tired, kind of like what Zed was saying. But with that, I think that it's going to be a pretty easy win now. I think the Gophers will win about 31-10. And it's changed for me
Wow.
ever
Holy
since
smokes.
since hearing what he said about that offense, fellas. I just don't think that's not 10 quarters without a score offensively. Granted,
Well,
again, against great teams, but boy, that their offense is not looking good, especially with their quarterback question. We don't know who's going to
yeah, but the
play.
backup might be better.
He might be better, yeah, but
And it's the
I
most
liked what
Gopher
I
thing
saw from our
ever
secondary.
for a backup to step in and just be
Yeah,
on it. I feel like
right.
Northwestern has done that to us multiple times in my
Yeah.
lifetime. But I like it. I like the confidence. I'm worried. My keys to the game. I'll start with the offense. Kind of similar to what you said, Shitty. Just keep the same running game because inside zone has not been working too well. So they're running more off tackle, outside zone, a little bit of power maybe looked like, just whatever you call it. That's been working more because I think, like you said, they're a really good run defense. And maybe if we're not even putting points up all the time, you still want to stay out on the field. I said it last week. I'm using it again. You got to limit the wasted possessions, not too many 3-and-outs where you're putting your banged up defense on the field very often. So that'd be my main key for the offense is to stay on the field, put together good drives. Defensively, I'm looking at our linebacker room because outside of Mav, we're going to need Devin. We're going to need Cody, Jack Henderson if he's healthy and out there. Those guys are going to have to come to play and help out because the defensive line is pretty banged up front right now. So they're going to have to pull their weight, have their best game against the run in this game because for the most part, talk about how bad an offensive line is, but they still run the ball about 50% of the time or pretty dang close to it. At least they did the last couple games. So, I just think, and I think the secondary has proven that they're going to be okay. I know we're without Kerry Brown, but so linebackers come to play, put the smack on them, and as always, take care of the ball. I think it's going to be similar to last game where there's not going to be a lot of possessions. I think both teams will try and move the ball on the ground. I have the Gophers winning 20-16. So I have it pretty tight. I think those are going to be field goals in there for both teams. And I just, you're coming off a big win. You storm the field. You're partying. I think we get the job done and get to that bye week, but definitely not one you can overlook because, like we pointed out, they got plenty of players on their team to get the win.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for me, that's the number one key, and I think it should be the number one thing circled on PJ's list too. Is just you just can't fall into the trap, right? This is the trap of all traps right now. Coming off a huge win, I got to go 2 time zones to the west and play a lesser opponent who's had a really tough schedule, but they've been scrapping in every game. And like he said, they do have a lot of talented players that can make plays. So if you let them, they're going to take advantage of it, and they're not going to quit just because they've had a tough go so far. So not falling in the trap, really just setting the tone early. I think last game was probably our most complete game as far as playing a full 60 minutes compared to the previous games, but there's still a couple things that could be cleaned up. But I think overall, we're moving in the right direction in that sense. So something to just keep improving upon. And, playing a night game in the Rose Bowl, it's not something we've been able to do very often. So
well, I'm sure we'll get a lot of jokes about that from rival fans while it's happening.
Oh, yeah. Right. But that's got to be the easiest way to look at it, right? Like, this is your opportunity to play in the Rose Bowl. You're at night.
Yeah.
Take advantage. Then we get to rest next week. Like, let's not relax too soon here. But yeah, the next thing too is just UCLA's had a tough go, and let's not make it any easier on them. They're like, as I had said too, their defense is not getting off the field, and kind of looking at some of the numbers through the air, they're giving up a 70% completion rate. They are, I think, almost dead last in success rate on 3rd and 4th down. Like, they're only 51% successful on defense on 3rd and 4th down. So they are not getting out the field at all. So as long as we're not shooting ourselves in the foot, not turning the ball over, I think we can kind of just roll down the field. The run game seemed to turn it on last week too. So hopefully we can continue with that. And then the third one is just if we can get into position early in the game, Hopefully that second half we can kind of start the bye week early. I hope we don't overload Darius, and I hope we don't add any injuries like we already talked about because we already have so many.
Yeah.
We can keep the guys healthy, get some guys that were injured back in 2 weeks. I think that'd be a win, but yeah, I think it'll probably be a little bit of a slow game. Hopefully we just keep the possession of the ball and kind of bleed them out a little bit. So I've got Gophers 24-13.
Nice.
Yeah, not too far off. One thing I wanted to bring up when Zed was talking about them getting chunked intermediately, in my head I'm like, okay, well that's Brosmer's game, so that makes me feel a little bit better. And then you brought up the atmosphere of the Rose Bowl, Max. I think a lot of Gopher fans there are a decent amount of Gopher fans are going to this game, like because they haven't had the chance to go to the Rose Bowl in a while. So hopefully that hometown support out there can help will this banged up team and get it done. While we're live here, somebody that's watching, tweet at Ryan Burns and see if he'll respond about Jack Henderson. I'm curious now. Let us know if he responds. But yeah, now I keep thinking about that. Co says his parents are headed out there. Yeah, I mean, out of all the teams that joined, I know, USC. Well, not as much USC, but Washington and Oregon have like great environments. For me though, like stadium you want to go to is UCLA's. It's
For
just
sure.
the beautiful surrounding and the historic stuff. So I think we'll have a good turnout there.
Yeah. Well, awesome. That is 3-0 for the Sky Pod. Go for victory. Yeah, I think they'll be able to do it. But transitioning a little bit just to go for news here, a little fun action here. Coy Parrott, he was named Week 6 National Freshman of the Week and Most Versatile Player of the Week. He tallied 6 tackles, a forced fumble, and he had that game-sealing interception. Fellas, is it just time that Co starts from here on out? And who would be beside him?
Aiden Gooseby. I think that's your best starting duo. If a healthy Kerry Brown is there, I'm not expecting him to play. He looked like that. I think they said concussion, or they took him out, took his helmet out, and he went to the locker room and never. I don't think he came back. So it looked like he hit his head on the ground pretty hard. So hopefully he's doing okay. But anyway, if everyone's healthy, I think your best like coverage safeties are probably Coy and Kerry Brown. But Gooseby's been doing a lot better there too, and probably had his best game against USC. So as far as guys that are available, I think Gooseby gives you maybe a little bit more of a physical presence. But Coy just showed off, man. The way he was able to get off blocks, get around blocks, and just take away those screens or runs intermittently in the intermediate part of the field. Like USC's longest play was 21 yards last week, and they gashed everybody. And I know they had a couple of them, but still, there was no big explosive play. And I felt like a lot of the times it was Co that came in and erased it. So I fully expect him to be, the starter here. He played a lot last game. I think that designation is not. I think he'll be out there the first snap on defense next game. I'm sure there'll be packages where he's not on the field, but yeah, he's a starter, and I think him and Gooseby are probably your best 2 safeties. Kerry Brown's got a strong argument though as well.
Yeah, I would probably lean towards Kerry Brown a little bit more, but like you said, with him being injured, I think Gooseby's definitely the next best option. He's definitely shown the most improvement. I feel like early on I was kind of out on him, but the last few games he's looked a lot better and just a lot more aggressive, which has been an issue. And looking at some of the other safety options too, I mean, Darius Green, I feel like has a lot of potential because he does fly around a little bit and tries to make big hits, but he's just never in the right spot and missing way too many tackles. Right. Like there's just too many times where it's like, and who missed? Oh, it's Green again. But it's one of those two where it's like, but he is flying around. So
yeah,
like then it's almost like the opposite for Gooseby. It's like early he was a little bit too hesitant, like not making those cleanup tackles and not like just letting guys fall forward. But he was always in the right spot, and he was always, not missing tackles. So it's like, what's the lesser of 2 evils, I guess. But if I had everyone healthy, I think definitely Kerry Brown just from like Koi too. He's just making a lot of plays. He's just being an impact player on the defense.
I feel like Gooseby, when everything's clicking, is like the perfect hybrid of Kerry Brown and Green, because he's got some
Yeah.
physicality to him, but he's not slow either. Like I feel like when
Right.
he's been out of position, it's him just like you said, delayed reacting to what's happening and not maybe fully trusting it. But he's got. I mean, the coaches have raved on his talent for a while. Like they're really high on him, and we saw why. He was right there at the end of the game too, covering that giant that they tried to throw to in the end zone. So, yeah, I love Kerry Brown. Like he's got 2 picks in that one game for us. He's been really impressive. I think he shies away a little bit at times in the run game, but it's nice to have 3 solid options and a fourth with Green out there too. So you got options.
Yeah. And Coleman Bryson's not bad either.
Thank you.
Like, he's fine.
Coy kind of replaced him, and I feel bad because I
Yeah.
actually thought he was having a good season.
Right.
Spencer, we'll go ahead and let you weigh in if you had anything else to say on that.
Not really, but Coy's obviously going to be the starter. I like Kerry Brown too. Gooseby is great as well. I don't know who you play. I think maybe recently because Brown went down, maybe you get Gooseby in there, obviously, but I don't know. The secondary has been the most surprising this year, and they've been great. We were a little concerned with them at the beginning of the season or before the season started, and I think that they've done tremendous. I mean, think about it. I mean, you could run like a dime defense, 5 DBs back there, and I'd feel really confident with all 5 guys back there. Granted, you're not really focused on the run, but honestly, with how great they've been and how our backers have been, I wouldn't mind seeing that package.
Well, look how I think a huge part of why you would feel so good about that is because Ethan Robinson and Justin Wally have been phenomenal. Like we talked about it preseason that maybe the corners were being slept on a little bit, and like Robinson has been way better. Like it from what we heard, he was really good in coverage, had all those pass breakups, and hadn't given up a lot of catches. He just tackles really well too, though. Like I didn't expect them both to be so physical. I mean, we had seen it with Wally, but Ethan Robinson is just a great all-around corner. Like he hasn't made like as many turnovers. He still has a couple, but like he just reminds me a little bit of Brian Body Calhoun, just a tiny bit of how he's always just around. Like he's always seeming to get off blocks from the receivers and go up and tackle the ball carrier, and then he's making plays on the ball. So those guys have been tremendous, and that definitely helps out, makes things easier on your safeties when you got 2 corners that are playing as well as those 2 are.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Kind of want to touch on the offensive line here, fellas. They're coming off, I think, their best performance of the season. They only gave up 1 sack, and we rushed for 193 yards, with the running backs averaging 5.6 yards per carry last game. But are you buying the offensive line? That are they actually trending in the right direction, or is this more of USC's defense from last week? Max, what do you think?
Yeah, I'd probably buy more into the offensive line than saying it was just USC's defense, because I mean USC's defense is not the USC defense of old. They've definitely improved from years past, and we saw the offensive line struggle against Rhode Island. So what they've done is definitely shown an improvement in their own room. I think part of it's probably been maybe the play calls helped them out a little bit. It's a little bit less predictable. They've added more wrinkles, giving that offensive line more opportunities to kind of show off their athleticism too in some of the screen game. And then it all kind of comes back to just helping with the run game too, with keeping the defense on their toes. So I think all around things have improved, but I would definitely buy into the offensive line actually improving throughout this season so far.
Yeah, me too. Max, you touched on the schematics. I completely agree. I mentioned it once already this show, but like we saw, they've ran more off tackle stuff now. It's not just all up the gut where we're maybe, your best blockers are Quinn Carroll and Ariante Ursary. So it makes sense to go more behind those guys. And those kind of like stretch outside zone plays are allowing their backs to make cuts back in the middle when they're there and whatnot. So that's been great to see. And, as we saw, Darius took full advantage of that. So I think schematically they're getting helped out. And then they just came out. You could just tell, like when they came out running the ball, they were just much more focused, like juiced up. I don't know if it was the night game, UCLA. They haven't had the starts necessarily like that. They had a couple nice plays to open up against Michigan, but then they kind of got all out of sorts with penalties and whatnot again. But yeah, I'm definitely buying in. Like you said, the USC defense is not the worst defense we've played. So seeing them take a big step forward against them was nice to see. And listen, we were expecting them to be the strength of the team coming into the season. So I still think there's definitely talent there on this line. It's just whatever reason, taking time for it all to sync up together, and it just seems to be heading in the right direction. So I'm going to buy in.
Yeah, I'm totally buying in too, fellas. USC has, great athletes. Yeah, they're not a team that is tremendous defending the run, but I think when we're thinking about trending in the right direction, I think the offensive line is definitely doing that. Gophers just played Iowa and Michigan. Those are tremendous defenses. They got probably what a great defense is going to look like for the remainder of the season. So with that under your belt and these next few games, hopefully not being as intense up front, I think that the line is set up to get into a good position. So, yeah, I think that if they can just keep – and, with that, I feel like since – Kurt, we talked about a little bit, a tempo offense, Brosmer seems more comfortable. It seemed like he was comfortable last game. He wasn't as jittery running around, the off tackle runs. I mean, it seems like this offense as a whole is more comfortable. It doesn't seem as sporadic or it's not breaking down like it was. So I am confident in what I'm seeing.
That's a great point. Like Brosmer, that was the first game where it didn't feel like the coaches had to go all out of their way to get him into a rhythm. They ran the plays and just executed them. I don't know if it's because there's more screens involved. There wasn't a ton of shots taken down the field, certainly some, but it was definitely probably Brosmer's best game as well, even though there was no passing touchdowns that came out of it.
Yeah, only 4 incompletions. I mean, that's
awesome.
That's a huge step up, and that's both his accuracy, his right. Yeah, it's like that's a credit to his accuracy, his kind of calm demeanor, but also we've been harping on the drops too, so it's kind of from everybody.
Yeah, there's only one ball that I thought was potentially catchable, and it wasn't. And it's the one Jackson played, but I'm not going to sit here and harp on Jackson because he's Daniel Jackson. He's a tremendous player.
Yeah. The other thing, last point too, to go back to the offensive line, and you kind of already mentioned it, Kurt, the penalties. We didn't have the crippling false start or holding call that seems like we've had multiple times every game. So that too just seems like they, like you said, they're just more focused this game too, as far as the offensive line goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. That's some of your Gopher tidbits for the week. But with that, it's everyone's favorite time of the episode. It's the famous Sky U Pod parlay of the week. Yeah, we didn't get the turkey this past week, fellas. It's hard to do that after getting 2 in a row for our viewers, raking it in. Right. We failed you all. But this week I'm feeling confident, and as always, I will start us off, fellas. I'm looking down this whole list here, and there's one game that popped out to me. And usually I save this until towards the end of the season during a nice weekday night. But I'm looking at the MAC here on a Saturday at 2:30. Northern Illinois is on the road at Bowling Green. And Bowling Green is actually 3-point favorites. I think I'm going to take the Huskies here, fellas. I think that the Huskies can go to Bowling Green and not only cover that 3-point spread, but get a win there. We saw what they've done against Notre Dame. Bowling Green, though, they did play well against Penn State. They also played well against Texas A&M. So they are formidable, but I just think that the Huskies can get the better of them. So give me Huskies and the win.
I like it. I admittedly didn't have a ton of games that I loved this week spread wise. One I did like, I think, is Max sends in this thing, his own version of like the dead dog teams. And I honestly, Max, did they even make your list this week? Did the Boilermakers make your list this week?
Well, I haven't updated it yet, but they were.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I'm picking against the Boilermakers. Illinois.
I thought about that. Yeah.
Purdue's at Illinois. Illinois is coming off a bye week. Purdue didn't look like a Power 4 team like against Wisconsin. It was just bad. Like execution. I don't even know. Like I saw I don't remember which one. One of our Purdue buddies with the College Huddle posted on Twitter, like, I would say work on like execution, but I wouldn't even know like where to start, like, because it was all bad. The offensive line, the play calling, the receiver, like all of it was off. And it's not just the offense that they gave up 50 some points to Wisconsin. So I like Illinois coming off a bye. I know 19.5 is a big number, but I just don't think Purdue's very good. And I think Illinois is probably going to be pretty hungry after a close loss to Penn State. So give me the Fighting Illini to cover.
I like it.
Yeah. No, I like that one too. I like both these. Yeah, this week I had a tough time finding one that just jumped out. So we're just going to go with one that I think gives the most value. And we're going to take the Oregon State Beavers. They are I think last I looked, they were 4.5, somewhere between a 4 and a 5 point favorite at Nevada. I don't know. Oregon State's 4-1. Nevada's improved from last year, but
that one scares me, admittedly.
Oregon State offensively can run the ball really well, and Nevada can't stop much. That's what I'm going with. That's what I'm telling myself.
No, I like it. Hey, every time I question you guys hit. Which, by the way, Shruti, I think after a rough start, you've hit like 4 in a row, 3 in a row.
I didn't get the last one.
Oh, you didn't?
Yeah.
I thought Clemson covered.
Yeah, they did.
Did they? Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Spencer sneakily should have 5 in a row because the one before that was the Northwestern Duke under.
Yeah, that one was.
So you've basically been right 5 times in a row.
Yeah. I do it for all these wonderful viewers and listeners out there. We want you to be wealthy. Well, there you have it. That's your Sky Pod Parlay of the week, everyone. Get after it and let us know what you think are your parlays of the week and easy locks. Let's pick some games, fellas. This week, there's a lot of cool games out there, I got to say. Hard to pick for parlays, but if you're just a college football fan, I kind of like some of these matchups.
Yeah.
Let's start here in the Midwest. Washington is at Iowa. Iowa's 2.5 point favorites. Boy, this one's a tough one. Washington did take Michigan on and got that win. Iowa might be different. The only thing is their offense. Give me the Huskies. I'm going to take them to cover those points. I'm thinking an Iowa loss is due, so I'm going to go Washington.
Yeah, Ohio State really shut them down. I know they're a totally different animal, but I think the Huskies' defensive front is pretty good too. And, obviously they gave Michigan more than they could handle, and they got that 10-point win, like you said. So I don't feel good about it. I definitely would stay away from it personally, like with my own money. But I am going to take the Huskies as well since they're the underdog.
Yeah. Everything on paper, I want to take Washington, but Iowa's at home.
Yeah.
Playing Michigan, Iowa back to back is tough. I'm taking Kinnick. Taking Kinnick Stadium -2.5.
It's not a bad choice.
No. I mean, would you be shocked if the game starts with like fumble, pick six, like Iowa just scores like right away that way? That's just
those are their only points, I mean, they've done it for a whole season, so probably gonna happen. Sticking with the Big Ten, but heading out east, Wisconsin's on the road at Rutgers. Rutgers is actually a 2.5-point favorite. Boy, that's pretty cool, but I think that Badgers are going to take this one. I don't know, fellas. Look, Rutgers is a much better team than they used to be, but I'm just not putting all my eggs in the basket. I got the Badgers.
I just like that you're so happy for Rutgers being a favorite at home against the okay Wisconsin team.
I mean, it is pretty cool. Yeah.
I think this matchup is fascinating because I think Wisconsin's offensive line is actually kind of slept on. I think it's the one good point maybe of their offense. I know they're not really happy with how it's gone, but I feel like their offense can run the ball decently. So curious to see if Rutgers can do enough offensively to offset being out there so their defense isn't on the field all the time. I'm gonna go Rutgers at home, and only because they're at home. They fought Nebraska pretty hard, lost a close one, but I think it's gonna be another low scoring game, but I'll take the Scarlet Knights.
Yeah, man. I think I'm just gonna take the Badgers. Overall, I feel like they're just the better team. I know they're on the road, but I don't know. I'm just not gonna think too. I don't want to think too hard this week. These games are too tough.
They're too matchup-y. You gotta X's and O's them. It's just a gut feel week for you, Max.
Yeah, we're just gonna, looking at numbers hasn't helped me thus far. So
there you go. I get that. I just don't know, because Wisconsin didn't do a lot against USC. That's the thing. And USC, all the things they did to USC were off of USC turnovers.
Right.
I mean, but Ethan can turn the ball over too, so who knows? But
all right, heading to a rivalry, the Red River rivalry. Texas is at Oklahoma. Texas 14.5-point favorites. Boy, Texas is looking good.
Is Quinn back or no?
I think last I heard he's supposed to start, but I'm not 100% sure that's confirmed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, this game is nuts, man. Every year I picked it last year. I'm like, I know it's a rivalry game, but Texas is looking really good. They should get it done. What happened? Dylan Gabriel ran for what felt like 300 yards. Just could not stop him from moving around. That being said, I know it's a big spread. I'm going to go Texas for all the reasons you said, Shooty. They've looked really good. That's all I got. They look good. Oklahoma doesn't look that good.
Yeah, I agree with you, Kurt. I'm going to go Texas. But it's a rival. It's like one of those things. Listen, everyone out there, it's a rivalry game. Oklahoma could just stomp them, and it would be
yeah. Well, this game could randomly just turns into 50 to 60 at times.
Right.
Even when it doesn't matter how the season's going. It just it can just become the craziest shootout. And by the time you know it, they're in double overtime and Oklahoma wins it. That just seems how it goes when they're the underdog.
Right.
Yeah, for all of that, I'm just going to take Oklahoma in the points. Hopefully, it's mostly just Oklahoma's defense steps up. And if Ewers isn't 100%, I mean, Manning's looked fine, so it's not like they really drop off there. But that's a big game to have him be in, too. So that'd be tough. But, yeah, I love this game so much. Every year, this is the one game it's great
when they're not on at the same time as the Gophers because then it's just you can just move it on. But those are the Rutgers-Wisconsin game, the Iowa-Washington game, and this game are all on, I think, at the same – or is this one an afternoon now? It's usually morning, isn't it?
Yeah, it's usually 11, I thought.
Yeah. I think they're all on at the same time. So get your TVs out, folks. You're going to need them.
All right, going back to the Big Ten, we're going west. Penn State is at USC, and Penn State are 5.5-point favorites. I think that USC is going to cover this spread. I think that it's going to be They got a chip on their shoulder after losing on the road. They're bringing it back home against a good Penn State team. I think a lot of USC fans were a little mad, Kurt, about this. I mean, their playoff hopes are hanging by a thread, if they're even still existing. But I think a good win against Penn State could make of a good argument potentially, and for that reason, I think they'll be ready to play. So I'm going to go with USC.
I thought I was going to be alone. I don't have a good reason other than a gut feel. I also think USC is going to cover, and I think they're going to win. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just a gut feeling. Penn State, there's nothing statistically in this game that would make me want to pick USC other than I just think they are good. I was surprised how upset they were with Miller Moss. I still think there's a solid argument that he might be the best quarterback in the Big Ten. I didn't see him play a bad game necessarily. Every incomplete ball. I mean, the one pick, his arm got hit, and then the other one, there was 10 seconds left, and he took a shot to the end zone.
Just
I don't
trying
know
to win
what
the
else
game.
So I don't know. I still think he looks pretty solid. Obviously they know will care more about that than I do, but yeah, I'm gonna go USC.
Yeah, I am too. I think all the other reasons you guys said. I mean, they're gonna be pissed off, and that's a long way to travel for Penn State too, going all the way across the country. And I don't even know what time is this game even at.
It's a night game. I think it's 6:30. 6:30 our time, so 4:30 their time.
It's not too late, but
yeah. Which is actually 3 hours, right, for Penn State? Is that what you just said? Did I just say exactly what you said?
Oh, it's at 2:30 USC.
Oh, it's an afternoon game?
I guess so. So 12:30 local.
Okay. Yeah. That makes sense.
So not super late for Penn State, I guess. I wasn't sure it was going to be like a 7 o'clock locals kick.
Gotcha.
Penn State's
right.
Trying to stay awake.
Right.
That makes sense. Yeah, they are angry, by the way. We saw that.
Yeah.
That's all right.
They're pretty cool before the game.
Yeah.
Well, that was like a handful of.
Yeah.
We have Gopher fans that do that too, so it is what it is.
Your team just lost, and playoff hopes are fizzling. I get it.
Playoff hopes are underwater just because the boat rode them over, and it just I mean, that sounds harsh, but it's just true because they couldn't lose that one. They still have Penn State, which I think they're going to win, but they still have to go. I think they still have Ohio State on the schedule. So
yeah,
I thought they had all of them.
A lot of season left. Sticking in the Big Ten and out west, big one, probably game of the week, fellas. Ohio State's at Oregon. Ohio State's 3-point favorites, and I said this at the beginning of the year. You remember years ago in the semifinals and the playoffs when Ohio State played Clemson for that revenge game, and Ohio State just dominated. I think Ryan Day remembers these things and gets bulletin board material and gets his team ready to play. I think he doesn't like losing twice to a team, even if he does lose. I mean, it's happened against Michigan, but I think this one means something to him. He's going to be ready to play, and I think that they'll cover those 3 points. So give me Ohio State.
Yeah, I'm taking Ohio State as well. Dylan Gabriel is just kind of making a lot of weird mistakes right now that you wouldn't expect from a veteran quarterback. And I just think Ohio State's a little bit better, just plain and simple. So I'm going to take Ohio State to cover those points.
Yeah, same here. I'm on the Buckeyes. They've shown almost no weakness at this point, so hard to go against them. It is in Eugene, right? You said.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's the only hesitancy I would have, but.
And here's the great thing, Gopher fans, you're going to get to watch the majority of these games because the Gophers don't kick off till 8 o'clock. So you get to watch the first 2.5 quarters of this game before they even got to worry about the Gopher game. So that's a bonus.
Mm-hmm. And finally, transitioning to the SEC, Ole Miss is at LSU. Ole Miss is 3.5-point favorites. I think I'm going to go with Ole Miss. LSU, they've been looking okay, but I don't know. This Ole Miss team, boy, their offense is just awesome, I think. And I don't know if that's something that LSU can handle. I mean, LSU only has that one loss at the beginning, but against USC, but I don't know. I just think that Ole Miss goes on the road and takes care of business.
I'm going to go LSU at home in that environment at night. I think they've been looking for a chance to get redemption because they haven't played necessarily top tier teams viewed nationally, at least until this game. So I think they're wanting to prove something. Not sure if they win, but I'm going to take the points with them at home.
Yeah, it's not a bad one either, especially being in Death Valley. I'm going to go Ole Miss. Who did they drop the one game to? It slipped my mind who they lost to. That's right,
Kentucky.
Yeah, I feel like that one's kind of stuck in my head. Like if they had won that one, like I wonder how much of the spread would be right now because Ole Miss has looked great also, but I don't know. LSU's kind of same as last year. LSU's like all offense, no defense. So
yeah, I don't know what's going on with them.
Well, there you have it, everyone. Thanks for tuning in yet again to another episode of Sky U Pod. Be sure to check us out on YouTube, X, and wherever you listen to your podcasts. We encourage you to check out our partner's website, thecollegehuddle.com, for many more college football podcasts and articles. Please like and subscribe, share with your friends, share with your family, and just let us know what you think. We love to interact with you all and just chat Gopher football because we all love it. But with that, thanks for tuning in and go Gophers.